Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise, get straight to the insights that, well, really matter.
That's the plan.
And today we're diving deep into the biological foundations of behavior. It's essentially the incredible, intricate wiring that makes us who we are.
Yeah, everything from your conscious thoughts right down to those unconscious processes just humming along beneath the surface.
Well, it's a journey into the self, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. These biological systems, they profoundly impact our thoughts, feelings, actions, often in ways we just don't consciously consider.
It's like getting the secret blueprint.
Exactly,
Yeah.
the blueprint to your own existence.
And that's our mission today. We want to give you a shortcut, the fast track to being well-informed about these fundamentals, your nervous system's building blocks,
The amazing architecture of the brain.
and those powerful chemical messengers orchestrating, well, everything you do.
Prepare for some surprises, I think,
Yeah.
about how you function every single day.
Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we start? The very beginning, I guess. The neuron.
The neuron, the basic unit of the nervous system. Your body's specialized communicators.
Right. And there are a few different kinds.
3 main types, yeah. You've got your sensory neurons. Think of them as reporters.
Okay.
They send updates from your senses, muscles, organs to the central command, the spinal cord and brain.
Got it. Input. Then there are motor neurons.
Motor neurons.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're the action takers. They carry commands out from the brain and spinal cord to your muscles and glands.
Telling them to move or secrete something.
Precisely. And then the most common type by far, interneurons.
The connectors.
The connectors. They just relay information between other neurons, making sure everyone's talking to each other. They're the glue in the network, really.
And these neurons, they're not working alone, are they? They're support staff.
Oh, absolutely essential support staff.
Right.
The glial cells. And they're not just passive helpers, you know.
Right. I read they're quite active.
Very active. They clean up waste products. They provide insulation to the axon, that long part of the neuron the signal travels down.
And they even help with communication itself.
They do. They assist in making sure the communication is fast and efficient.
Speaking of speed, that insulation you mentioned, the myelin sheath.
Ah, yes. That protective fatty layer. It wraps around the axons of many neurons.
And it's crucial for speed, right? Like a supercharger.
Exactly. It dramatically boosts the speed of the nerve impulse transmission.
But what's fascinating here, I think, is that it's not a solid coating.
No, not at all. That's the really clever part. It has these tiny uninsulated gaps, the nodes of Ranvier.
Okay.
So the nerve impulse doesn't just crawl smoothly along. It literally jumps from one node to the next.
Yeah.
It's called saltatory conduction.
Which makes it incredibly fast.
Incredibly fast and efficient. But it also highlights a vulnerability.
Like with multiple sclerosis.
Precisely. Multiple sclerosis is a disease where that vital myelin sheath gets damaged or destroyed.
So these signals, they slow down or get blocked.
Exactly. It impairs central nervous system function dramatically. Imagine that superhighway suddenly full of potholes. Leads to all sorts of debilitating symptoms.
Wow. Okay, so how do these neurons actually talk to each other? This is where it gets really interesting, I think. The communication itself.
It is. It's this incredible dance between electricity and chemistry. High-speed stuff.
Let's start with the electrical part, the nerve impulse.
Right. So a neuron at rest, it holds a slight negative charge inside, around negative 70 millivolts, like a tiny battery ready to go.
That's its resting potential.
Correct. Then, when it gets a strong enough signal from another neuron, boom, tiny gates in its membrane fly open.
And positive ions rush in, sodium ions.
Positively charged sodium ions, yes. They flood into the cell. This flips the charge inside from negative to positive. That's depolarization.
And that sudden flip, that's the signal.
That abrupt electrical change is the action potential, the neural impulse itself, zipping down the axon like a tiny lightning bolt.
Okay, so you've got this electrical zap flying down the neuron, but they don't actually touch, do they? There's a gap.
A tiny, tiny gap, the synapse. And that's where chemistry takes over.
Right, the neurotransmitters, chemical messengers.
Exactly. When that electrical impulse hits the very end of the axon, these little nubs called terminal buttons,
They release these chemicals.
they release these chemical couriers, the neurotransmitters, right into that synaptic gap.
And the next neuron picks them up. How does that work?
Think of it like a lock and key. Each neurotransmitter is a specific key,
Okay.
and it only fits into a specific kind of receptor lock on the surface of the next neuron.
So it ensures the message gets through correctly. Specificity.
Absolutely. Precision is key.
Mm.
And once the message is delivered, those neurotransmitters don't just hang around.
They get cleaned up.
Either they get reabsorbed by the neuron that sent them, that's called reuptake, kind of like recycling,
Whoa.
or they get broken down by specific enzymes right there in the synapse.
Efficient.
Very. And there's another layer too, neuromodulators.
Okay, what are those?
They're other chemicals that don't carry the main message, but they can, like, turn the volume up or down on the receiving neuron, make it more or less sensitive to the actual neurotransmitters, fine-tuning the whole system.
Wow. Okay, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this explains a lot about how drugs work, right? From caffeine to prescriptions.
Absolutely. It all comes down to interacting with the synaptic communication.
So things like antagonists, they block things.
Exactly. Antagonists are drugs that basically jam the lock. They occupy the receptor sites so the natural neurotransmitter can't bind and deliver its message.
And agonists, they help.
Agonists do the opposite. They either boost the neurotransmitter's effects, maybe by increasing how much is released, or blocking that reuptake process.
So more stays in the synapse.
Right. Or some agonists can actually mimic the neurotransmitter itself, acting like a master key and activating the receptor.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you, the listener? These tiny chemical messengers are running the show behind the scenes.
They really are. Take dopamine, for instance. It's involved in so much. Movement, learning, memory.
Pleasure, right, the reward chemical.
Pleasure, well-being, even social bonding. It's what drives us towards things that feel good. But the balance is crucial.
How so?
Well, irregularities in how dopamine is used are linked to really serious conditions like schizophrenia, disturbances in thinking, perception, emotion.
And on the flip side, too little.
The destruction of dopamine-producing neurons is the direct cause of Parkinson's disease. That leads to the muscle tremors, rigidity, difficulty walking. It really shows how delicate that chemical balance is.
And we see this agonist-antagonist stuff in everyday things, too.
Definitely. Think about caffeine, that morning coffee. It's a mild stimulant, an agonist. It gently increases the availability of glutamate, which generally excites the nervous system.
Okay. What about stronger stuff?
Stronger stimulants like amphetamines and cocaine, they're powerful agonists specifically for dopamine. They block its reuptake.
So you get a huge surge of dopamine activity.
Exactly, which explains their intense effects. Then you have the opposite inhibitory neurotransmitters, like GABA.
Gamma-aminobutyric acid, that's the main break in the brain.
The major inhibitory one, yes. It calms things down. And guess what increases the sensitivity of its receptors?
Things that calm you down, like alcohol.
Alcohol and anti-anxiety drugs. They're GABA agonists. That's why they have that calming, sometimes sedating effect.
And antidepressants. How do they fit in?
Many common antidepressants work by increasing the availability of norepinephrine and serotonin. They're agonists for those systems.
Which are key for mood, sleep, appetite.
Exactly. And let's not forget your body's own natural painkillers.
Endorphins.
Endorphins. They're inhibitory neurotransmitters, great at killing pain and inducing feelings of pleasure. That runner's high.
That's endorphins.
That's endorphins at work. A brilliant internal reward and coping mechanism.
Okay, amazing. So we've gone from the micro level, the neurons and chemicals. Let's zoom out a bit. The larger structures. The nervous system itself.
Right. The body's information superhighway. Your ultimate communication network.
And it's split into two main parts.
Two main divisions, yes. First, the central nervous system, the CNS, that's the command center. Your brain and spinal cord.
And everything else. All the nerves branching out.
That's the peripheral nervous system, the PNS. It connects the CNS, the brain and spinal cord with everything else. Your sensory organs, muscles, glands, all throughout your body.
Okay, CNS and PNS. And the PNS itself splits further.
It does, into two key parts. First, the somatic nervous system.
Somatic body. So voluntary stuff.
Exactly. It's your voluntary control system. Transmits messages between the CNS and your sensory organs and muscles, allows you to consciously decide to, pick up that pen or wave hello.
And the other part runs automatically.
Mostly, yes. That's the autonomic nervous system, the ANS. It automatically regulates all those involuntary bodily processes, breathing, heart rate, digestion, stuff you don't usually have to think about.
Thank goodness.
Right. It just takes care of business in the background.
And the ANS, that has two divisions too, doesn't it? The ones with opposite effect.
It does, and this is fascinating. They work in tandem to maintain balance.
Yes.
You have the sympathetic nervous system.
Sympathetic. Sounds friendly, but it's the fight or flight one.
Exactly. It's your body's accelerator. Kicks in during stress or excitement. Speeds up your heart rate, releases energy stores, gets you ready for action, fight, flee, or freeze.
Gets you ready to face a threat or run like mad.
Pretty much. Then on the other side, you have the parasympathetic nervous system.
With the break.
The break and recovery system, it does the opposite, slows things down, promotes relaxation, helps with digestion, replenishes energy stores. This is your rest and digest system.
Bringing you back to calm after the stress has passed.
Precisely, a constant balancing act between these two.
Wow. Okay, so that's the nervous system. But you mentioned another communication system, not using nerves.
Yes, working right alongside it, but using a different method, the endocrine system.
Glands and hormones.
Exactly. A system of glands like the pineal, hypothalamus, pituitary, thyroid, adrenals, pancreas, ovaries, testes.
So quite a few key players.
Major players. And instead of nerve impulses, they secrete chemical messengers called hormones directly into your bloodstream.
Which then travel around the body to target cells.
Right. And one of its most vital jobs, this raises an important point, is maintaining homeostasis.
That steady internal balance.
That internally balanced state your body is always striving for. Think about blood sugar.
Right.
You eat some carbs, your blood sugar goes up. Your pancreas, part of the endocrine system, senses this. It releases insulin.
And insulin tells the cells to take up the sugar.
Exactly. Insulin acts like a key, letting glucose into the cells, bringing blood sugar levels back down. As they stabilize, the pancreas adjusts insulin release. It's this continuous, incredibly precise feedback loop.
Happening constantly without us noticing.
All the time.
And these hormones.
Yeah.
They don't just manage internal stuff, they affect behavior too.
Oh, profoundly. And it's a two-way street. Hormones influence behavior, but behavior and experiences can also influence hormone levels.
Give me an example.
Well, testosterone. It's often linked to higher levels of dominance, competitiveness, maybe even risk-taking.
And that explains the link between anabolic steroids, synthetic testosterone, and aggression.
That link is certainly there, yes. Then you have oxytocin.
Ah, the love hormone.
Often called that, but it's much broader. It affects brains in both men and women. Plays a big role in social behaviors. Trust, empathy, conformity, generosity, parental caregiving.
So really key for social connection.
Absolutely. It influences how we bond and interact. Even your thyroid hormones have a huge impact on your mental state.
How so?
Too much thyroid hormone, hyperthyroidism, is linked to anxiety, irritability, feeling inexplicably wired.
Okay.
Too little, hypothyroidism, can lead to sluggishness, fatigue, weight gain, even depression. It really shows how our internal chemistry shapes our day-to-day experience.
It really does. Okay, let's tackle the big one. The command center itself. The brain.
The ultimate biological marvel. The most complex structure known in the universe, arguably.
It's kind of built in layers, right? Evolutionarily speaking.
Yes, you can think of it that way. The oldest parts handle the most fundamental survival functions. Down at the bottom, the hindbrain.
What's in there?
You've got the medulla. Absolutely essential. Controls heartbeat, breathing, swallowing, basic life support.
Things you definitely can't live without.
Definitely not. Then the pons, just above it, involved in regulating wakefulness and sleep cycles. And behind that, the cerebellum.
The little brain.
Looks like one. Crucial for coordination, balance, posture, and learning motor skills. Think riding a bike.
Cerebellum's hard at work. Okay, moving up.
We get to the midbrain. It acts as a major pathway connecting the hindbrain below with the forebrain above. Parts of it form the brainstem along with the hindbrain structures.
And it has its own important bits.
Yes, including the reticular formation. This is a network of neurons stretching up from the hindbrain through the midbrain.
What does that do?
It's key for attention, alertness, arousal, sort of like your brain's gatekeeper for incoming information, deciding what gets your focus. Filters out the background noise.
Your internal alarm clock and spam filter.
Kinda, yeah. And then finally, we reach the top, the forebrain.
The biggest part. The most recently evolved.
By far the largest and uppermost part. Responsible for our most complex functions. Thought, language, memory, emotions, personality. Everything we think of as uniquely human.
Okay, what are the key structures in there? It gets complicated.
It does. There's the thalamus first. Think of it as a grand central relay station.
For senses.
Almost all sensory information sight, sound, touch, taste, passes through the thalamus on its way to the higher brain areas for processing. It also plays a role in sleep and wakefulness.
Okay, what else?
The basal ganglia. These are clusters of nerve cells deep within the forebrain, absolutely vital for regulating voluntary movement, making movements smooth and purposeful. Problems here are linked to Parkinson's and Huntington's disease.
Right, and the hypothalamus. That sounds important.
The hypothalamus is tiny, but incredibly powerful below the thalamus. It regulates so many vital bodily functions: temperature, hunger, thirst, sexual behavior, emotional states.
Wow.
And it controls the pituitary gland, which is the master gland of the endocrine system. So it links the nervous system and the endocrine system. It's also heavily involved in our response to stress.
A critical control center. And the limbic system. I hear that a lot.
The limbic system, it's not one structure, but a set of interconnected structures looping around the edge of the forebrain, sometimes called the emotional brain.
Why is that?
It includes parts like the amygdala, hippocampus, and parts of the hypothalamus and thalamus. It's crucial for memory formation, especially memories tied to emotion, and for processing emotions like fear, anger, and pleasure.
So why you remember emotional events so vividly?
That's largely the limbic system at work, particularly the amygdala and hippocampus working together.
It's just incredible how scientists figured all this out. How do they actually study the brain, especially a living one?
Great question. They use a whole range of sophisticated recording and imaging techniques these days. Non-invasively, mostly.
Like the EEG, with
Right.
the electrodes on the scalp.
Exactly. The EEG, or electroencephalograph, it records the overall electrical activity of the brainwaves, shows different patterns for different states like deep sleep, dreaming, or being wide awake and alert. Good for diagnosing epilepsy, for example.
It doesn't show structure,
Yeah,
just activity.
right. For structure, you need imaging, like the CT scan, computed tomography. It uses X-rays from different angles to build up cross-sectional images of the brain. Can show tumors or damage.
Okay. And PET scans, they show activity too.
PET scans, positron emission tomography, yes. They show brain activity or function. You get injected with a tiny amount of radioactive glucose sugar.
Because active brain areas use more sugar.
Precisely. The PET scanner detects where that radioactive glucose is being gobbled up, creating a map of which parts of the brain are working hardest during a specific task, like seeing which areas light up when you listen to music.
Cool. And MRI. That seems common now.
MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. This uses powerful magnets and radio waves, not X-rays. It gives incredibly detailed pictures of the brain's structure, much clearer than CT scans.
So good for seeing fine details.
Excellent for soft tissues. And there's a version called fMRI, functional MRI, which, like PET, can show brain activity by tracking changes in blood flow and oxygen levels. Very powerful tool.
Are there more invasive methods used? Maybe in research?
Historically, and still in animal research primarily, yes, experimental methods. For instance, lesioning.
Which is destroying a part of the brain.
Intentionally destroying a very specific, tiny piece of brain tissue, yes, usually in animals, to see what effect it has on behavior. Helps map function to location.
And the opposite, stimulating a part.
Electrical stimulation. Using a weak electric current to stimulate a specific brain area and observing the behavioral effects. Famously done by Penfield during brain surgery on awake patients to map the cortex. There's also electrical recording, implanting tiny electrodes right into neurons to record their electrical changes directly.
Gives very precise information, I imagine.
Extremely precise. But obviously, these invasive methods are used very carefully and ethically, predominantly in research settings or sometimes during necessary medical procedures.
Okay, so all this research shows the brain isn't just one big blob. It's highly specialized.
Highly specialized. That's lateralization, the division of labor between the left and right hemispheres.
Most people know about left brain, right brain, kind of.
Yeah, though it's often oversimplified, but there's truth to it. For most people, the vast majority of the left hemisphere is dominant for language.
Speech, writing, understanding language.
Yes. And also logical analysis, problem solving, mathematical computations. It tends to process things sequentially, logically.
And the right hemisphere?
Generally dominant for nonverbal processing. Things like spatial reasoning, mentally rotating objects, reading maps, recognizing faces, interpreting gestures and emotional expressions.
Music and art appreciation.
Often, yes. It tends to process information more holistically, grasping the bigger picture, handling creativity and intuition.
So a stroke hitting the left side versus the right side could have very different effects on someone's abilities.
Dramatically different effects. And we even know specific language centers, usually in the left hemisphere.
Like Broca's and Wernicke's areas.
Exactly. Broca's area, typically in the left frontal lobe, is crucial for producing speech. Damage here leads to difficulty forming words, speaking haltingly.
And Wernicke's.
Wernicke's area, usually in the left temporal lobe, is critical for understanding language, both written and spoken. Damage here means someone might speak fluently, but it's often nonsensical and they have trouble comprehending language.
Fascinating. What about handedness? Is that linked to this?
It is related, though complex. About 90% of people are right-handed, meaning their left hemisphere is typically dominant for motor control of the writing hand, and often for language, too.
And lefties.
For left-handers, language can be more variable. Sometimes it's still left hemisphere dominant, sometimes right, sometimes more distributed across both. Genetics definitely plays a role in handedness. Preferences develop before birth, and interestingly, men are slightly more likely to be left-handed than women.
Huh. Okay, so the brain is specialized. But what happens if a part gets damaged? Is that it?
Not necessarily. This is where the brain's incredible plasticity comes in.
Plasticity. Like it can remold itself.
Exactly. It's the brain's remarkable ability to adapt and reorganize itself, not just during development, but throughout life, and especially in response to experience or injury, like a stroke or head trauma.
So other parts can take over.
To some extent, yes. If one area is damaged, especially in younger brains, other areas can sometimes reorganize and take over the functions of the damaged part. It's why rehabilitation after brain injury can be effective. The brain is constantly learning, changing, adapting. It's not fixed hardware.
That's incredibly hopeful, actually.
It really is a testament to its resilience.
Okay, bringing this all together, it leads us back to that classic debate, doesn't it? Nature versus nurture.
The age-old question. How much is our genes, our biology, and how much is our environment, our experiences?
And how do scientists even begin to untangle that?
One major approach is through kinship studies. Research designs that look at related individuals.
Like family studies.
Yes, familial association studies are one type. They examine how often specific disorders or characteristics run in families. If close relatives share a trait more often than distant ones or the general population, it suggests a genetic component.
But families share environments too.
Exactly, that's the limitation. So researchers turn to twin studies. These are incredibly powerful.
Comparing identical and fraternal twins.
Right. Identical twins share practically 100% of their genes. Fraternal twins, like any siblings, share about 50% on average. So you compare the concordance rates, how often both twins in a pair share a specific trait or disorder.
And if identical twins are much more likely to both have it than fraternal twins.
It points strongly towards a significant genetic influence, nature.
Makes sense. What about adoptees?
Adoptee studies are the third key tool. They look at adoptees who are raised apart from their biological parents.
So you can compare them to both sets of parents.
Precisely. Are they more similar in a particular trait, say intelligence, or risk for a disorder to their biological parents, suggesting genetic influence, or to their adoptive parents, suggesting environmental influence?
It sounds like it's rarely a simple either answer.
Almost never. And that's the crucial point of these methods. They help researchers understand the relative contributions of genetic predispositions, the nature part, and environmental influences, the nurture part.
It's always an interaction.
It's almost always a complex, dynamic interplay between genes and environment that shapes our behavior and psychological traits. Not one dominating the other completely. Nature and nurture working together.
Wow. What an incredible journey we've taken today, seriously.
It really covers a lot of ground.
From those tiny sparks and chemical whispers between single neurons,
Right up through the huge networks of the nervous and endocrine systems.
into the specialized yet amazingly adaptable regions of the brain.
And finally, touching on how our genetic blueprint interacts with our life experiences.
It just gives you such a profound appreciation for the sheer complexity of, well, of being human, of what makes you tick.
It really does. And understanding these biological foundations, even just the basics we've covered, it offers a deeper view of the complexity and, importantly, the adaptability of human experience.
Knowledge is power, as they say.
Well, knowledge is most valuable when it's understood, and you can maybe apply it, even just to understand yourself a little better.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Considering this intricate dance between your brain's chemistry, its structure, and your everyday life.
Yeah.
What new insights might you gain just by paying a bit closer attention to your own internal signals, those subtle shifts in mood or energy or focus?
Or, thinking about brain plasticity, how might a deeper understanding of that change how you approach learning something new or bouncing back from a challenge?
Definitely something to ponder. Keep that curiosity going.